Before you get into this video, if you like what you see, remember to subscribe, because it helps you, it helps me, and it's free. His name is Agent Twilight, but that's obviously not his real name. The truth is, he can't even remember his real name. He gave it up a long time ago when he first joined Wise. At the moment, he's Loid, a loving family man with a beautiful wife and daughter who looks suspiciously nothing like him. But what was he doing before all this started? He was born in Westalis in a town called Lewin, to a loving mother and very strict father. He used to enjoy playing soldiers with his friend at an army storage base. He loved doing this so much and hated the people of Westalis so much that when he grew up, he wanted to join the army. And his dad hated this, but before he could punish Loid, he had to go to work. On that same day, Westalis attacked, and Loid's town was bombed, almost killing him. When his mother came and found him, he asked about going to school that day, and his mother told him that wasn't an option anymore. And to make matters even worse, his dad never came home that night. Due to the outbreak of war, Loid and his mother evacuated to a town deeper into Westalis where they'd be safe. And they were! For a while? There was an air raid, it killed Loid's mother, leaving him an orphan. Naturally, Loid's blood was boiling and he wanted revenge. So a few years later, he lied about his age, lied about his name, and joined the army. Once in the army, he rose through the ranks, becoming a sergeant, partially because of his immense, undeniable talent, and partially because the Westalis officer corps was dying. During one battle, he set a load of traps and managed to catch an Ostanian deserter. This deserter was Frankie. Frankie, upon seeing Loid, started begging for his life. This confused Loid, because Ostanians were supposed to be unthinking monsters, and even if they could think, they'd only use their thoughts to think evil things. Or at least, that's how Loid saw it. But then he got to speaking with Frankie, and he asked him why he was deserting. And it's because he'd never been with a woman and didn't want to die that way. This is so funny to Loid that he decides to give Frankie a cigarette just so they can talk to each other. Frankie tells Loid about an experiment where groups of people saw a video of someone getting slapped. In the first group, the test subjects weren't told why the man was getting slapped, and when they saw it, their brains all told them that this was a bad thing. When the second group went in, they were told that the man was being slapped for cheating, and their brains all told them that it was a good thing he was being slapped. Loid is like, okay. And Frankie's like, don't you think it's a bit weird? They could have been lied to about the slap, and they'd have no idea. They just justify the violence in their head. And then Loid's like, say what you want to say. So Frankie does. What he says is the elites started this war, and now they want the grunts to fight it. Then Frankie says that they're all fighting for nothing, and Loid's like, well, you guys started the war. And then Frankie's like, in the east, they tell us that you guys started it, and that the bombing of Lewin was a false flag operation. This enrages Loid, because that false flag operation killed his entire family. He starts screaming at Frankie, and this alerts troops on both sides to their presence. So they have to run. During the run, Loid gets injured and sent back home. Once he gets back home, he meets his old friends, and he's like, oh my god, you guys are still alive! And they're like, oh my god, Loid, you're still alive! They're all being deployed soon, but they promise him once they get back from deployment, they'll come back and visit him. But they never came back from deployment. They all got deployed to one of the worst planned operations of the entire war, and all died. Loid is then sitting on a bench holding their dog tags, just thinking, just regretting, just grieving everything, before he's approached by a stranger. The stranger tells him his real name, his real age, and that he knows he lied to get into the army. Loid naturally is like, I want a bit more information from you. How the hell did you know all that? And the guy's like, I work for an agency called Wise, and you're gonna join it, or else. And then he tells Loid the or else is a court-martialing. Loid's like, alright, I'll join. I don't really have a choice. And the guy's like, good, meet me tomorrow at the train station with all your stuff. So the next day, Loid arrives with all his stuff, and the guy destroys all of it, and is like, your new life begins today. And that's when Loid threw away everything, because his old life is over. And for the rest of his life, his entire existence will be dedicated to serving Wise. Once he arrives at Wise HQ, he goes through a load of training and then meets a woman called Sylvia. She's going to be his handler and direct boss while he's on missions, which is always. He works as a spy for about 10 years before the start of Spy Family. And a lot has changed. He doesn't remember his real name, he doesn't remember his parents' faces. But on a more positive note, he has developed quite the reputation. Every single spy in his agency thinks that he's a celebrity and wants to be even the tiniest bit like him. It's all of their dreams to even go on a single mission with him. However, every other spy agency and secret police force hates him. He is an eliminate at all cost target because he has gone on so many missions and succeeded in every single one of them. We don't know much about the missions he went on before Spy Family, but we do know about the one he went on just before Spy Family. He was trying to get the foreign minister of Ostania fired because he had a toupee, which is a pretty crazy reason to get fired. But then again, this guy lost an entire general election because he couldn't eat a bacon sandwich properly, so what do I know? And that brings us up to the start of the anime. Loid gets a mission to infiltrate an elite school's elite club so he can get close to a man called Donovan Desmond, the leader of the National Unity Party, because Wise believes that he and his party are both a threat to the truce between East and West. But to infiltrate, he needs an elite child, and this annoys Loid more than a bit, but there's not much he can do, so he just gets on with it. He goes to the last place an elite child would be. A sketchy orphanage. No, hang on, I know what you're thinking. Bruce Wayne is pretty elite, and he's an orphan, but I have 2 points to make about that. Number one, he is the best orphan, so he's like the exception of exceptions. And number two, he was never in an orphanage, he was always in a mansion. But oh boy did Loid get lucky. He found an orphan who could read minds, and she's the exact age that he needs her to be. She reads his mind and finds out that he wants her to be clever. So she reads his mind again and pretends pretends to be clever, so he'll adopt her. He then starts training her for the entrance exam, and she passes. But not because of the training, it was because of the mind reading. Loid then needs to find a wife for the family interview process, and he picks the first woman he sees. And oh my god, did he pick bad! Or good, depending on how you look at it. If this glass looks half full to you, then he found a desperate woman who desperately needs a fake relationship so people think she's normal. And if this glass is half empty to you, then he found an assassin and is now living with her, potentially implicating him in all of her crimes. And if you see a moose, you should subscribe to the channel. They do the interview, it don't go so well, but they still get him. With the mission in full swing, Loid has to balance his work, his new family, all while hiding his true self from them. However, he is starting to get attached to his wife and daughter, which is something he hasn't done since he joined Wise. He keeps pushing to be a better husband and father, and he keeps pushing Anya to be the best student possible. But in the beginning, this being a supportive father and brilliant husband was all to make sure the mission was a success. But now, he's doing it out of love. If you want to know what happens next, then read the manga, or wait till season 3 comes out, whatever floats your boat. If you like this video, then stick around, because I make loads of videos about anime characters, anime and manga. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe. Bye.